Hi, everybody. Welcome to Phil and Dave's Excellent Adventure. Just Dave here. Today I'm talking about the movie Longlegs. This is going to be a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and you are concerned about spoilers, I would suggest you go and watch the movie first before you watch this review. So, Longlegs is a horror film written and directed by Osgood Perkins. It stars Maika Monroe and Nicolas Cage. It's about an FBI agent who's tasked with tracking down an occultist serial killer, whom she eventually realizes that she has a personal connection to. So overall movie, as far as what I liked about it, the cast was great. I really like Maika Monroe. I know her from It Follows, but also The Guest. So, and I think she just did a movie like last year called The Watcher or something. So she's done a lot of horror movies, and I know she's done other stuff, but I've only seen her in horror movies. So another good horror movie for her in this one. She was doing a really cool thing. I noticed she was just her performance is very weird, very like I don't know, almost like she was on the spectrum or something like that. And I know she was kind of talking out of the side of her mouth, and I'm like, does she always do that? And I didn't notice, but I saw her in interviews and she doesn't. So I think it was something like an affection she picked up for the affectation she picked up for the character, which is cool. And obviously there's some comparisons to like Clarice Starling because she's a woman FBI agent and serial killer and all that, but she kind of reminded me of like Sheldon Cooper a little bit. What's his name? Jim Neighbors. I forget his name, but anyway, the guy who plays Sheldon Cooper, Jim something. Either way, I liked her. I thought she was great. I like Nicolas Cage in this as well. He's not in it a ton, which is I think good. But he's a little over the top. But I thought he was great. I really like Blair Underwood too. I thought he was really good. He's a great actor. He's a guy. Every time I see him, I'm like, damn, that guy's great. He's got a good voice too. He was in New Adventures of Old Christine. I really liked that show. Alicia Witt also amazing in this. She's I was really impressed by her. You know, it's kind of thing when I saw her, I'm like, who is that? I know her. And I'm like, oh, it's Alicia Witt. Yeah, she was really great. She did a really good job. I think with she had a lot to do. I think, and she did a really good job with it. And then the other FBI agents, Michelle Choi-Lee and Dakota Daulby, they were good as well. And Kiernan Shipka, I like her. I know she's also done some horror movies. I just saw her in one recently. Totally Killer, right? But yeah, she is Carrie Ann Camera, Longlegs Only Survivor. Thought she was really good too. I really liked her performance. It was, you could, I liked it. I think you could argue that some of the dialogue was a little funny, but I think she handled it well. Cinematography was really well done. It was by this guy Andre Arochi. He's done a lot of music videos for like Major Lazer and DJ Shadow. He's done a bunch of shorts too. I think this is kind of his first feature length movie, but he's got more coming out. I thought it was really well done. I really liked the cinematography in this. A lot of really cool framing, a lot of really cool shots. Music in this was by Zilji, who is Elvis Perkins, who's actually Oz Perkins' brother. He also did the soundtrack for The Black Coat's Daughter, or the score rather. And he put out a couple albums, Ash Wednesday, Elvis Perkins, and Deerland. I haven't listened to them, but I'm curious to check them out. I'm wondering if they are sort of experimental and like the soundtrack, or if they're more traditional, music. I don't know. And then the actual music, the soundtrack they have in here is it's all T-Rex. Which, hey man, nothing wrong with T-Rex. That's great. So it opens with Jewel, then they have Planet Queen in there, and it ends with Get It On. So that's great. I love T-Rex. I love Get It On. I love Deborah. They've got a lot of great songs. Bang a Gong. Get It On. Yeah, good band. It's really cool. I'm sure maybe they saved a little money by just using one artist or whatever, but really cool. I really like the opening title sequence. They've got like it's all red and it's got a very like 70s kind of grindhouse sort of look to it. It's very cool. It's very long. For a second, I was like, did the movie mess up? Is it supposed to just be on this red screen for this long? Oh no, it's okay. But yeah, it's very, there's a lot of weird camera angles too. Like especially at the beginning, I noticed there's these very low kind of like, not even exactly Dutch angles. Maybe they were Dutch, but either way, very, very low angles. And like a lot of like, when you first see Blair Underwood, he's like shot through the car window and there's a reflection of a tree on the window. And then the other FBI agent, Agent Browning is sitting next to him, Michelle Choi-Lee, and you can barely see her at all. So it's just kind of very interesting choices as far as like shot choices and composition stuff. But I liked it. I thought it was really cool. And I think it added to the sort of unnervingness and the creepiness and the unsettlingness of this movie. And I think probably the best thing about that and the best thing about the movie for me was the sound design. I think the sound design was just excellent. It's some of the best, creepiest, just most unnerving sound design. I remember like feeling my heart racing at some point early on. It may have just been because I was kind of like running and I was almost late to the movie. So it might have been a little bit of that. But I remember just being like, dude, I'm kind of like having a bit of a not like a panic attack, but I'm feeling a little stressed out right now. Like this is kind of crazy, and that was cool. I really appreciate it, and the overall sort of aesthetic and vibe of the movie is cool. I think I just like the '90s because I grew up in the '90s, so like the set design was really cool too. Like Lee's mom's house had like stuff that my mom's house had, like the glass doorknobs and like the wood, trim and stuff on the walls and all that kind of stuff. So that was, or maybe it was a different house, but yeah, a lot of those houses seemed very similar to me because even though I grew up in the '90s, we had stuff from the '70s and '80s, and I really like Lee's house too. It was this cool like cabin out in the middle of the woods, and I'm like, yeah, I would totally live in that house. That house is awesome. It was really cool, just really cool set design. Like stuff looked really cool in this. And I really like just I appreciated the sudden unexpected violence. Like early on in the movie, we kind of see that Lee is this FBI agent, and maybe she's kind of got a hunch or whatever. She thinks, oh, it's this house, and so the other guy goes and knocks on the door, and all of a sudden he just gets shot. It's just like so shocking and surprising. And then there's a couple times where like things like that happen where the movie is so quiet, and so there's parts even where I was like, is there not a score? Is it just like kind of noises and traditional like and there were parts where there wasn't like really a traditional music in there. It was just kind of like noise. There is music in the movie, but yeah, and so it's just the movie's so quiet, and so then when all these crazy unexpected things happen, it's very effective. At least for me, there's a lot of those attacks. There's the one woman who sort of attacks them. At one point, and she has a scene with her mom too, where she has to spoilers here. She has to like shoot her mom, and it just the way it's a very quick scene, but it's framed really well, and you just see the shot, and you see the blood, and her head go back. It doesn't linger on it, it doesn't sit there too long, but it's quick and it's effective, and I really appreciated that. Or just the Longlegs, Nicolas Cage smashing his face into the table. Like I've seen that stuff before, but like I appreciated that. I don't know, it was really good, and I really like there were some good practical effects in here. I think, especially like they found some dead bodies that had been dead for like I think a couple months or something, and they pull back the sheet and you see it. I thought it looked really cool. I thought it looked really good. It was really well done, at least in my opinion. And some other stuff too. I thought overall the practical effects that I saw that were in this looked really good. And I just love practical effects. I think, and I appreciate the movie isn't overly gory. There is some gore. There is some violence and stuff, especially like I said, the smashing his face scene. But overall, I think the movie picks its moments, and it's mostly just kind of a quiet, sort of just creepy, weird, unsettling movie. And I like there's not like a lot of jump scares. There are some like musical stings that are kind of like jump scares, I guess, but there's not like oh, the guy pops up behind you and like all that kind of stuff. So I appreciated that, and like stuff coming right at the camera and all that. And I like that there's some like legitimate psychological horror in this, which I always really appreciate. But there's a scene with this mother who's got a knife, and she's like talking about how rough the pregnancy was, and she's got this like C-section scar, I assume, and she's like stabbing the doll with it and everything. That to me was just so creepy. That's like a scene that's going to stick in my head for a while, I think. And there was a couple of those things. And again, like the face smash thing was, which I've seen in other movies before, I think, but something about the way it was done, I think the way it was shot and the music and everything else, it really, really creeped me out. And I like that too, that there was like supernatural horror. It kind of managed to get both psychological horror and supernatural horror and kind of balance them, in a way that at least worked for me. So I appreciated that. Overall, I really liked this movie. I thought it was really fun. It was very creepy. It was very, as far as a horror movie goes, it creeped me out. I had to go in my basement like later on that same day, and there was a couple times where I like legitimately felt creeped out in my own house because I'm like, God, if I turn around and Nicolas Cage is standing back there with that creepy mask, So yeah, I think said about what I didn't like about the movie. I could see people saying that Nicolas Cage is over the top in this, and he definitely is. He's going full 100% Nicolas Cage. But I think it works for the movie because the rest of the movie is so quiet and so weird, and I think it adds sort of a little levity to it in a way that I kind of really needed, because without it, the movie would just be maybe a little too dark for me. And I think a lot of people have complained about the prosthetics. I actually don't think they're that bad. I think part of it is too that I don't know. I guess I don't know what the deal is with his face or why they did the prosthetic. I mean, maybe to hide the fact that it's Nicolas Cage, which would make sense. But it is a thing too where I'm looking at it, I'm like, well, it does look kind of bad in some scenes, but then it's also like he's got makeup on his face. So they've got a prosthetic on, and then they've got makeup on top of that. So it's like, well, is this character like trying to look like a doll? Did he get plastic surgery to sort of make him look like this, or did something happen to him, or what is he injecting saline into his face or something? I don't know. So I don't know. And the movie is a little slow. I can see a lot of people. I've seen a lot of complaints that people just said it was very slow and boring, and it's not scary at all. And I can get that. And honestly, if I were 15 or so, even like 25, I can see thinking that about this movie. But I didn't mind the slowness. There was maybe one scene kind of early on where Lee was like talking to her mom in the cabin. I was getting maybe a little bored, but then all of a sudden, Longlegs shows up in her house and like leaves her the note and everything. And I'm like, nope, I'm back into it now. There's a lot going on. I think it's like it's a creepy doll movie. It's a Satanist movie. It's a possession movie. It's a supernatural movie. It's a psychological movie. It's an FBI serial killer movie. Like there's a lot going on here. I didn't mind that so much, and I thought the story wasn't too difficult to follow or anything. But it does seem like much like the last movie, the Despicable Me movie. Like they're just throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, kind of thing. And it's a bit predictable, I think, at least for me. I realized pretty early on that there was a good chance her mom was involved because there's only like six people in this movie. So like how there's only so many people who could be involved. And her mom was acting very weird and like saying weird stuff off from the very beginning. And I did think maybe for a second they would do something where, oh, it wasn't her mom's involved. It's actually Lee's involved. She just doesn't remember because, she's being controlled or something. But actually, I think I wouldn't have liked that if they did that anyway. And I also thought it was pretty obvious she was a little girl at the beginning. Like literally as soon as the movie started, I'm like, oh, so is that Maika Monroe when she was a little girl? I just assumed that's who it was, because why else would they show us this little girl? I mean, they could have showed it for a number of reasons, but yeah, I wasn't too surprised. And I was like, oh, that's her. And and the whole time when they're like, oh yeah, it's because of the birthdays. I'm like, oh, so her birthday is also the 14th? Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, it is. Oh, and she's the missing one. Like, okay. I won't say I had everything figured out, but yeah, it was pretty much like, and I felt like there was at least a scene when the mom kind of turned and it was revealed. Maybe it was when she shot or right before she shot the FBI agent, but a woman in the crowd was like, oh my God, like. And I'm like, you didn't see this coming? Like, really? Maybe she was just freaked out with the situation. I don't know. But and I think maybe the ending was a little silly. Just going back to Nicolas Cage and it being like, "Hail Satan," and like blowing a kiss or whatever. But then again, actually, I kind of liked because it was stupid and goofy, and it again made a very dark and kind of atmospheric and moody and just a grim kind of movie. It gave it a little levity. So you know what? I actually kind of like it in a way. So other than that, movie is directed by Osgood or Oz Perkins. He did The Black Coat's Daughter, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, and Gretel and Hansel. He wrote all of those. He also wrote The Girl in the Photographs and Cold Comes the Night. I think most of those are horror movies. Cold Comes the Night, I think, is more of a like noir thriller kind of thing. I have not seen any of those movies. I know I had heard good things about Black Coat's Daughter, but one of my friends who watches every horror movie said she didn't like it. So I was like, well, I'll skip that. But she liked this one. So I don't know. Either way, budget on this one, it's hard to say. Less than $10 million is what Wikipedia says. I've heard 3 million somewhere. So yeah, not a huge budget on this one, which I'm not surprised by. Nicolas Cage, I think, also produced it, so I'm sure he had some sort of a deal where he gets, he's a producer, so he gets money from that. Box office made $22.8 million so far, opening weekend, biggest ever opening weekend for Neon, so they're stoked about this, and the movie's already made its money back. So hey, you're good there, so that's great. Rotten Tomatoes on this one, 86% for the critics and 63% for the audience. So a bit of a difference there. And I can definitely see why this is a thing that critics would enjoy and appreciate, like I said, the sound design and the shot choice and all the things that I've already said. Whereas, yeah, I can see for a lot of audiences, especially, if you're younger or if you want a horror movie, you want something scary, you want like a slasher movie with action, you want like Scream or something like that. I can see being disappointed in this, but I really enjoyed it. So I'm definitely in the 63% who enjoyed it, I suppose. So Oz Perkins, he's also an actor. He was in Legally Blonde and Not Another Teen Movie, Secretary, Nope. So he's been in a fair amount of things there. He's the son of Anthony Perkins, and he actually played the younger version of Norman Bates in Psycho 2. And then his mom was an actress photographer named Barry Berenson. She was actually on board Flight 11 on 9/11, one of the flights that crashed into the World Trade Center, which I did not know. So that's interesting. And there's a whole thing. Anthony Perkins was like gay for a long time, and then he met Barry Berenson. She was like 25, he was 41. She was like engaged at the time, I think. And then they started a relationship. She got pregnant with Oz, and it's reading about Anthony Perkins is just interesting. I spent a lot of time reading about him, and it sounds like Oz had a pretty interesting life growing up. So I can see I can see, I guess, why horror would be appealing to him. But yeah, just a crazy, interesting thing to find out there. So as far as my score on this movie, though, I really enjoyed it. I think I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's my favorite horror movie of the year so far. It's very possible on a rewatch I could maybe not like it as much, and I'd be a little embarrassed. I remember loving Feast and watching it again later, and being like, "Wow, this is why did I like this? I don't understand." But for me, this really worked. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I'm definitely going to watch it again. So if you saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great night, and I will see you here again next week.